Hello, I'm Michael Cantrell, and you are listening to the Prison Officer Podcast, a place to have a conversation about the forgotten cops that work in this country's jails, prisons, and correctional centers. A place for me to try to make sense of a career spent working inside the fence with some of the greatest people that nobody sees or recognizes for the important job they do to keep this world safe. If you love this podcast, hit the follow button, or better yet, share with your family, friends, or coworkers. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prison Officer Podcast. Before we get started today, I want to just thank our sponsor, Pepperball.com. Pepperball has been a sponsor of this podcast for a long time. I used it when I was an officer. I'm still a master instructor for Pepperball. It's something I believe in. If you haven't had the chance yet, go check out www.pepperball.com. Check out their launchers. Check out the different Pepperballs that we've got. We've got some new glass breakers. If you're working corrections, go check out the Blast or even the Burst, which are new products where it releases PAVA into the air, non-flammable, so perfect for correctional facilities. And if you haven't done so yet, go to Amazon, check out my new book that came out in May, Weight of Justice. It's doing great. I thank all you guys. I've gotten some good reviews and gotten lots of emails and chats telling me that people enjoyed it and that they got something out of it. So that makes me feel really good. Today's guest, I've got, we had him here back on episode 107, Shaun Klucznik. 107 was Inside the American Jail System, Leadership and Innovation. And I've been watching Facebook and LinkedIn back and forth, and I just checked on him to see if he had time because he is a busy man. So Major Sean Klucznik serves as the Judicial Services Bureau Commander and Jail Administrator at the Hernando County Sheriff's Office in Florida. He's been working in the criminal justice field since '97 and holds dual certification in both corrections and law enforcement. Major Klucznik is a graduate of the FBI National Academy, Session 283, American Jail Academy, Command Academy, Class 10. He currently serves as Commissioner on the Florida Corrections Accreditation Commission. He's also a certified jail manager through the AJA. He's and we're going to talk to him about this, he's the immediate past president of the American Jail Association. So that's been his position for the last year, and I want to hear about that. Major also holds an Associate of Science degree in Criminal Justice from St. Petersburg College, a Bachelor of Arts from St. Leo University, a Master of Arts degree in Philosophy from St. John's, and a Graduate Certificate in Criminal Justice Education from University of Virginia. Another thing we're going to talk about today, he has a new book, Broken Windows Behind Bars, Transforming Jail Operations Through Order and Accountability, and we'll see what else he's got up his sleeves. I'm sure he's doing more than just that. So welcome back, Shaun.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, I love having you here. You've got your finger on the pulse of corrections, and I think for the last year, you've really had your finger on the pulse of corrections. Tell me about how this has been. You were AJA president for a year. What was that like?
Yeah, so I swore in May of 2025 and hit the ground running. I got to come on this show and then got to do a little news, segments for a couple of stations when New Orleans had their big escape. So, yeah. I mean, that was within 2 weeks of swearing in. So that was pretty crazy. But it was an awesome year. What a great association we have. I mean, we got a lot of cool things done last year. It was an absolute blessing to be part of that and to be able to lead those. We have some amazing people on board of directors, amazing volunteers, and all of our members obviously are phenomenal. One of our key benefits of being a member is our iConnect and the connections on iConnect with the conversations that happen where, there's no new problems in corrections. And if there's something new, somebody else is dealing with it at the very least. And, there's no reason to, why not steal somebody's idea and take advantage of it and help fix your problem or offer some insight to help somebody else. So iConnect's a great place for people to connect and just problem solve and share policies and share ideas. So that's really kicked up. And I tell you, I'm most proud of our social media footprint. And I think you've probably seen a couple of episodes of our podcast. Mm-hmm. We produced 9 full podcasts last year, something that AJA has been trying to get off the ground for a lot of years. And thankfully, we were able to do that. And on top of that, we've done more importantly, I'm in charge of that committee now. So as the immediate past president, President Judon asked me to continue that. I formed the committee. She asked me to run it. And I said, oh, no problem. So we're actually recorded 2 so far for this year, and we got a full lineup coming up, and we're excited about that. We had some really improved numbers on social media. So
Great. You're talking about iConnect. One of the things I notice when I travel and I hold classes, if I go to a law enforcement class, everybody has a business card. And when I go to corrections classes, it's one of the things I talk to them about. You make it through this profession so much easier with networking. I started collecting business cards and got mine when I was a CO. Before, anybody paid for it. I paid for it for myself, because there are times where I haven't dealt with this. Here, let me get on the phone, see what so-and-so thinks. And I can guarantee you part of what made my career was the fact that I had reached out to other people and made connections. So I think everybody should carry a business card when they go to training, when they go to wherever they get to go and make those connections.
you can always
now it's digital.
download it on the app. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's too easy to exchange contact information. It's really good. It's a great idea. And that's obviously any kind of networking is important. Anything we do in this profession, especially in leadership roles, is developing relationships. And that's not just internal, it's obviously external and even outside of the profession, because, leadership is leadership, and it can translate to many different, venues. So I agree with you 1,000%.
So I know you got to travel a little this year, go out and probably meet some corrections people you hadn't met before, see some places. What's your overall thoughts about where corrections is, and what are staff feeling like?
Obviously, we're still facing a lot of challenges, a lot of staffing challenges, just respect in the community challenges. Those kind of things are crazy. I was sitting through this morning, and most of the afternoon sitting through watching our county commission talk about just budgets, local budgets. So there's an absolute battle all across the country when it comes to funding jails and prisons. Nobody wants to. Why would you want to spend money on those? Those are things you don't even want to think about. Never mind spend money on. So
yeah.
But everybody's battling the same things. Luckily, I've heard some positive news. I can even report locally in our facility. We're fully staffed, so it's great news.
Nice.
The county to our south, they're still struggling to staff up fully, and a county to our north is battling some real contraband issues, to include federal indictments for staff for smuggling contraband, and there's problems, and then there's great things happening across the country. My favorite trip of the year, besides conference, but I had the opportunity to, I was invited by the New York City Department of Corrections to come and represent the AJA at their 9/11 memorial. I had an opportunity to speak there. What an impressive group, especially when they're in their dress blues, right? That's a sharp uniform. It was an absolute honor to go up there and take an outside tour of Rikers. It was a very busy day. Didn't get to go inside. Made some good contacts, like we were just talking about. And ultimately, we ended up with some good relationships. Even with the mayoral change and leadership change, those relationships remained. And we've had a pretty successful year. As a matter of fact, it's a little crescendo this week. We were able to negotiate and work together with the New York City Department of Corrections to form the Northeast Regional Correctional Training Center. And the New York City Department of Corrections is hosting that. And our very first class started at the beginning of this week and just wrapped up today. It's a direct supervision, basically back to basics. It's a familiar theme with me. But former President Shaun and past President Tony Callisto, they taught it. It was very well attended, and looking forward to that. The partnership's going to be fantastic. It's a huge group. They have I can't remember exactly. I want to say 6,000 inmates and roughly the same amount of employees. So that's a huge system.
Yeah.
But what a blessing that was to be able to. I've never been to New York City either. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I got it blurred out for everybody, but my Patriot stuff's still behind me on the wall. So I felt like I was walking around enemy territory. But what a cool city. It was really cool week.
Yeah. I got to meet some guys at One Voice United earlier this year at a conference.
Yep, they were there.
I don't know did you meet Richard Palmer and Phil Rizzo? Yeah, they're going to be on the podcast here. I was talking to them yesterday, and to tell the story about I don't think most people understand what corrections did during 9/11, working that pile. I was taken back by their story and everything. So I can't wait to get them on here.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I'm glad that they're stepping up and making sure that they are at least recognizing themselves. Sometimes there's some battles. The heroic work that was done And all corrections is behind the scenes, right?
Always.
They led the way. They handled business like true New Yorkers did, and any one of us would have most likely. And if the same scenario happened in our same home, that was amazing stories.
Yeah, truly. So I was on your website for your book, and I told myself I'm gonna bring this up fairly early because I learned something that I did not know. A Klucznik in the Grand Estates of Old Poland meant keeper of the keys, or was a trusted guardian of access and steward of order. So did you know before you went into this business that, or is this something that came afterwards? And how cool is that to have that as part of your heritage?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't remember when I realized it, but there was a movie that I found. It's a poorly made. I think they made it with camcorder back in the day. It was all in Polish. I mean, I've been to Poland twice. My dad was born in Poland. And I'm actually halfway through seeking my Polish citizenship by descent, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
They made this movie, and I'm like, it's called The Housemaster. I'm like, so I looked it up, and it actually Klucznik translates to either housemaster or keeper of the keys. And as I'm saying that out loud, it absolutely was after I was in the profession. So I realized that's kind of weird. Look where I work. It was at my first jail. It was pretty young in my career, but it just kind of maybe it was fate, but it was, it's hard to say, harder to spell for some people, but it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's in your heritage to be this involved in corrections, because you truly are. You're involved in corrections at so many levels. And this year has been so busy for you. Being the president, you do the certification stuff, wrote a book.
Yeah,
how long's that been going on?
That was probably about 3 years, honestly.
Okay.
It was, and I've had great opportunities. Thank God for my sheriff. My sheriff is amazing. He's very pro training, pro getting our names out there. And anytime we can represent him well, or the agency or the county, it's good for everybody. He recognizes that, and he sees the value in putting ourselves out there, especially when we're offering a good product. And he says it. If things weren't going well at home, because I have a great staff, and my command staff is amazing right now, I wouldn't be able to do the things that he's letting me do. So it's an absolute blessing. Those guys are rock stars, and our sheriff really promotes it. So I've had some opportunities to do things. Florida is very, progressive when it comes to doing corrections right.
Right.
And we Florida model jail standards. I'm on the commission for Florida Corrections Accreditation Commission. And then my involvement with AJA has been amazing. It's like I said, it's an absolute blessing to be able to do that. Very busy, no doubt. And and I'm always working on something else too. So, I've even become pretty good friends with, I don't know if you know Tate McCotter from the National Institute of Jail Operations. We've talked a lot lately. I don't know if you should have him on his podcast, honestly. His legal-based jail guidelines are phenomenal. What a product that they are. It's basically a national accreditation, but it's legal-based. That means it's not, one size fits all. Our state accreditation won't work in Georgia, most likely, because the laws are different.
Right.
We share the same federal circuit, but obviously state laws are different. And sometimes the best practice concept doesn't necessarily mean it's legal, or, what the Supreme Court has said, or what your circuit court has said. So Tate's product is really cool, and it's something that anybody should really start paying attention to. Yeah.
I'd love to have him on here. It's one of the things I've been pushing the last few years is, you go to a police academy and you get taught case law. The number of people that don't know Whitley versus Albers that I run into on a regular basis, whose job is to know Whitley versus Albers when shit hits the fan, and they've never heard of it. And it is something we need to push to get that out there. So yeah, I'll get the info, and I'd love to have him on here and talk about that.
Happy to connect you guys.
Yeah. So you've been working on the book for a little bit. Tell me what was the catalyst that said I want to write this?
It's funny is I read this. Obviously I read the Fixing Broken Windows, the book, the concept, right? And I'm like, man, what a simple idea. And I realized as soon as my book came out and I was talking about it, I knew there was going to be some haters, because obviously there's some negativity that came out of that book and New York City and the policing styles. But okay, yes, everything can be flawed, but I'm just talking about the basic concepts. So if you see if a broken window in a building is there and you don't repair it, odds are good another one's going to break, or eventually people are going to move in, the building's going to fall apart, right? So that just clicked in my head. Then I saw this one image one time, and I'm going to read it. It says, stick to the basics, and when you feel like you've mastered them, it's time to start over again, begin anew, again with the basics, this time paying closer attention. Signed, Coach, right? So I've always said, and I've told all the way back to being a field training officer, if you take care of the small things, take care of the small things, the big things don't happen. As simple as if the inmates see, and I loved it when it happened. No, it's Klucznik, right? When the shift change happened, it's Klucznik. But at least they knew what they had, and I would tell them, listen, here's the scenario, guys. By policy, I'm required to search 2 of your cells. So if I'm walking around doing a well-being check, and you decide, or your roommate decides not to make their bed, and have contraband or too many pictures on the light and all the different rules, then that's going to be an invitation for me to come in and choose your cell to search. So let's make it look good and make it hard on me to pick. And they self-policed, amazing, right?
Yeah.
But those basics, they knew that I was going to, and I did do those 2 searches at least. And if more than 2 cells invited me in, I spent all day searching. It's fine. But they knew that it was going to be consistent. And those consistent execution of the basics keep us out of the grease so often. Think about, you have those officers you work next to that waited for you to go home, and then the fight happened, or waited for you to go home and then a suicide attempt happened, because you're going to do your checks. You're going to make sure you're there. And if your reputation is you're going to do the right thing and execute on the basics and always be that way, that's hard, but it is hard. It's hard to be. We're human. We're tired. We get stressed, get distracted, and something at home is bothering you. You get distracted, but it's hard. But if it's consistent, you can kind of go in your routine. And the concept was something that just triggered, and I kind of got sidetracked earlier, and that's what I was talking about. I got to do some traveling across the state. So in hotels at night, I started working on just concepts, breaking out the chapters and building them out. And it just really, it finally got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm really close here. Maybe I should concentrate and actually finish it up. So I did take advantage of some travel and some time in the hotels at night, and just got locked in, connected with a fantastic publisher, Jody Costa from Shine Press. She's a local boutique publisher in Tampa, and she helped me finish it up. And it's been I'm pretty impressed with what's happened. It's not a huge number of sales, but I'm impressed. I've almost broken even now with the cost for putting it together. So it's exciting. It's real exciting.
Yeah. You're doing good. A lot of people think, that if you write a book, everybody's Stephen King. No, if you're writing a book, it's because you care, and you want to get that info out there most of the time. But it's great that you've actually broke even, because it does cost. It's not free to do all that stuff.
And obviously there's time investment, and but if it's something that you're passionate about, it's almost a hobby. And I say this quite often, and I probably shouldn't say it so loud, but I get to go to work, and it feels like a hobby. I go to work because I enjoy it. I love it. I don't. There are mornings where it's harder to get up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and just go. I don't have to, but I do because I choose to. But it's an absolute love of the game, and it's an important game that we're handling, and a lot of people just don't know what we're doing. So.
Yeah. And that's why I love the fact that your sheriff's it's something I've talked about, this transparency. They've got to see us when we're doing good, because the only thing that you can go on YouTube and you can look all day long. I did a class not too long ago where I'm talking to field training officers. And so you're looking at, places where we can rate them good and rate them poorly, and finding videos that I could show to rate good. Just basic communication between an officer and an inmate. I had a hard time finding it. I eventually went to Axon and said, hey, can you guys come up with something for me? Yeah, and that's because of the way we're looked at, the way that the media portrays us, I think.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I get to travel, and I'm so lucky these days because I get to go teach classes, and most of the people in the class want to be there. And I see some of the best. And corrections is so full of people who are out there doing amazing things inside and outside. So I always enjoy that positivity that I hear from you when you're on here also. So let me ask you this. When you talk about in the details, the Bureau of Prisons said firm, fair, and consistent for years. That's still what they teach. Do the inmates want that as much as the officers do? Do rookies understand that?
That depends how it starts off, I guess. So I'll tell a quick story. We just hired 2 certified individuals that came from that jail I was telling you about that's a little troubled lately. And to day one, my administrative sergeant from recruiting and first contact, my administrative sergeant's their guy until they get all the way through FTO. And that includes if they get hired as a civilian and we put them through the academy. He's locked in with them for a full year. And but to talk to them on this Monday, it was you could tell that there was a sense of relief. They're in a situation that's a little safer at the very least. I mean, there's some real bad things happening. You could search it, and they were successful, got through a background check, and they're excited to be with us. And you could tell I loved the fact that both of them were men of honor. So they were hired. They signed a 2-year agreement, and they waited until their 2-year agreement was done before they saw. I mean, I think our application was in before that 2 years, but they finished their 2-year agreement and came to us, and that actually sold me because that's a stressful situation they're in. But you make a commitment, you're there, right? But those guys, they're locked in, and those 2 years of experience they had in a troubled situation is going to help them realize that this is great. We can do what we do here, making sure we're taking care of this. They don't have to worry about necessarily. I mean, it could happen. Obviously, no jail's perfect, but they don't have to worry about those cell phone being found or being exposed to fentanyl in the housing units. You go to work feeling a little safer because you're running the place right. And that's a testament to everybody. And that starts early. And that's, when you're coming out of the academy with no experience, you got to set the tone in FTO. And if you don't have the right FTOs, man, things can go sideways. And that's, FTOs and first line supervisors. I always joke around as a jail administrator, I can ruin morale in a heartbeat. I can't fix it, but who can control it and manage it are the first line supervisors and the training officers who set that tone. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's definitely worth the extra effort to the communication and those relationships. You need to have relationships with everybody, and that was, I think, it was important and always important and I fell off a little bit, busy last year, but I wanted to make sure I'm there on day one, introducing myself. And I always joke around. I said, I know you from your file, but let me talk to you as a person, face to face. So it's awesome.
It's interesting that you mentioned safety because that's something I hear a lot from especially new staff. And I don't remember not feeling safe, but I hear that as a regular thing that they don't feel safe these days. And I think this is just me. We've pushed these guys off a little bit, the newer staff. We push them off, and I hear older staff say, well, they won't listen. I'm not talking to them. You can't do that, right? This is the next generation. It's so important. And anybody that's listening to this, I'll tell you, it makes me mad if you took your 20 or 30 years and left with it, because you should have left it behind. The people that need it are the people that are coming up.
Absolutely.
And how do we help? How do we bridge that gap a little bit?
So I think we've lost a little bit of the, we're old enough, you and I, to know that if something needed to be settled in the high school parking lot, it got settled, right? And that doesn't happen anymore. Our SROs seem to be everywhere, and the kids are going to jail at times for just fighting in high school or middle school. And so I think there's some level of maybe they don't feel safe because they're not confident in their ability to be safe. I mean, I grew up in a city, and I think I had pretty good street sense, and I think that helped me in a housing unit, and it helped me with my sixth sense and that little intuition when something's going to go sideways. And I think kids lost that a little bit. I think cell phones and text messaging and Snapchat and those kind of things have hurt communication. But, it's exactly what you just said. It's up to the old guard to pass on the knowledge and don't, take your ball and go home with it. Make sure you're putting your arm around people. Listen, it takes a lot. It's very expensive to hire somebody. And to retain them is way cheaper than hiring somebody else. So if you have a little patience and be willing to put your arm around somebody and offer just a little bit of, I have a couple deputies who directly text me And I'm maybe a little too frank with them sometimes when they ask me some questions about their personal growth and those kind of things. But man, would I have killed to have that access to a senior mentor and pick their brain and just randomly but I admire that frank response. I mean, I hope Brian Head will watch this. Brian Head was my professional mentor in Pasco. He actually kicked me out of the nest to go to Hernando in 2010 when we took over from Core Civic. And I felt sad because I love the guy, but he's pushing me out. He knew there's a good opportunity there. But he was also the one when I was being a bit of a jerk when somebody got promoted that I thought I should have been promoted when I was really young. This is my first promotion. I'm talking from deputy to corporal. And when I didn't get that appointment to corporal, man, I was really showing my rear end. And he was the one that grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "Hey, Shaun, we love promotions around here. We love watching the promotion, the process, watching that person swear in and take over. But we also like watching who we think should be next and how they react. So you're putting on quite a show." I remember that clear as day. And I said, You know what? You're right. And that turned me there too. But yeah, you need that though. You need somebody to just be willing to kick you in the rear end and say, "Hey, tighten up a little bit." And if you're not willing to hear it, that's okay. But we need leaders, and at every level, leaders to be willing to say, "Hey, here's a better way to do this," or "Can you look in the mirror and let's have a little conversation?" But you have to be willing to hear it, and not everybody is. But I think the ones that are willing to take the critique eventually turn into the ones that are off the critique and hopefully help the next generation too.
Absolutely. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, "Who are your mentors as far as officers?" And I got to thinking, I don't remember, we didn't talk about mentors as a word back then, but I can name a bunch of people who modeled what a good correctional officer was for me. And that was kind of what I followed was this person or persons, because there were several of them, the way they carried themselves, consistency, fairness, communication, all the stuff we talk about. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed in the 30 years you've been in?
Absolutely.
I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still the same how we deal with inmates.
And you can learn just as much from the ones that you wouldn't want to be emulating. Watch the bad habits or not having the uniform tucked in right or showing up late. You know what? You draw the attention to yourself. You don't want to do those kind of things. But I've learned the most from my supervisor I wouldn't want to work for anymore. And obviously you take the best from the best. And if you're looking to learn no matter what, you can find wisdom in anywhere you're looking. So.
Yeah. And I had a micromanager, and I was later in my career, and he was a hardcore micromanager, but yet he taught me because I shut my mouth and I did what he needed done. And I learned how to be better at what I did, more specific in my tasks and that type of stuff. So you
they always make you better. They always make you better through technical knowledge and your writing, right? The micromanagers always make you zero in. There's no doubt there.
Another thing that I hear, you talked about those two officers who stayed and fulfilled, and this is kind of that, accountability. We talk about that during our in-service training once a year and stuff, and I find that goes along with the details. Are you accountable to what you do every day, to what policy says every day, or are you trying to skim? What can we talk to those newer staff about to teach them accountability?
So, and that's another set the standard immediately, and we have those conversations early. We have a couple images of our sheriff on the wall when they get there, and we remind them he hired you, so it's a good opportunity to never make him take that smile off his face. You don't want to embarrass the sheriff, but that's by just following policy. And I mean, our policies are solid. If you follow policy, you'd be safe. But if you're in a situation where you think something unethical is going on or something illegal is going on, you have to be willing to report that. It's when we started, it was this guy's a snitch, those kind of things. Come on, our profession has become more professional in the last 30 years. I don't think any profession has transitioned further than corrections than where we are today. And I don't want to work next to people that are even just cutting corners, but I would definitely not. Throwing contraband or forming relationships with inmates, those kind of things you cannot do that. The public, you only have so much collateral with the public. And when you break the trust, man, especially nowadays with the social media and the keyboard warriors, they're going to attack you relentlessly. And you know, in certain situations, you deserve it. But if you do the right thing all the time, you can stand with a straight face and stand by your staff when something goes wrong. But everybody did what they were supposed to do. Bad things still happen.
Yeah.
But you can stand there and our sheriff done it. He's like, we've done nothing wrong here. So it's the standard has to be there though, because you can't imagine trying to in that New Orleans situation. And I hopefully they've turned it around. Could you imagine being the boss, the sheriff there, and having to try to explain it? And you know, you can only go so far saying, well, I don't have enough funding, I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay, yeah, but it's still yours. So,
right,
you know, own it and obviously talk about what you need. And obviously funding's a huge thing for everybody, but you have to own it. And
right.
I mean, maybe that's why she's not sheriff anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. I want to talk about two things with training. And the first one, I guess I'll start with when I go through your bio, one of the things I notice about you and one of the things that impresses me is that it looks like you've never quit learning. You keep going after accreditations and certifications. And I don't know that a lot of just correctional officers know that there's more education out there besides what you're being given at work.
Right.
So Tell me a little, I know the AJA is doing some of that. What's out there? What can they be doing? So,
AJA is a great first stop. Our certifications are amazing. I think I said them last time I was with you one time, and I said at my swearing-in speech in Fort Worth. One time I saw a jail administrator position open in Texas. I told my sheriff I had an Indeed account set up, and I set, my dream job in corrections at the dream rate of pay. And then I'd look at it and see what their requirements were. And I saw this jail administrator in Texas. I never want to move to Texas. I love Texas, but I never want to move there. But they said the position required a bachelor's degree, but preferred someone with a master's degree or certified jail manager from the American Jail Association. So that jail administrator recognized the power and the strength of that certification. So I'm like, well, I need to make sure I maintain my CJM. I had other certifications that I let lapse, but the CJM is definitely valued. And there's other across the the whole gamut of different organizations that have real quality ones. But you got to, when you realize that certain situations, you make sure it's worth your money and your time and your investment. Because even CJMs internal to AJA, there are sometimes you're saying, well, why do I need to recertify? Why can't I've earned it and I'm still working? Well, you need to make sure you're still growing and you're maintaining and you're keeping up with case law and you're keeping up with changes. So that's why we make you recertify. So if you could prove that you've gone to training and trained yourself, great. If you need to take the test again, good. We can do it that way too. But there's short certifications. AJA offers a ton of training. We've partnered with a bunch of groups. Online training is there and it's getting better. I noticed I got an email from the National Institute of Corrections. They put out some really updated training that's completely free. So there are opportunities, especially when you're struggling with budget funds and stuff like that. I've had the blessing of being able to attend a bunch of trainings. I mean, I still think the pinnacle of all trainings, the FBI National Academy, what an absolute opportunity that was, an honor to be there. 10 weeks was hard, and I'll say being 10 weeks away from my wife and my kid and my daughter, it was terrible. But it was great because I came home and we still love each other. So it's a great reminder that we actually did miss each other. So it actually improved our relationship being gone that long. But I'm actually, and I'm excited. Next week, I'm actually attending a Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It's called the Chief Executive Seminar. I got appointed to a state level committee that helps with their training, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's leadership training. I got to attend their executive leadership seminar and their senior leadership program, which was two of the best programs I've been through. And then going through the chief executive, and I was telling my sheriff this morning, I'm leaving on Monday. And I said, this one's typically for sheriffs and chief deputies. And so for ones and twos, I said, and I'm technically tied for 3. So it's kind of a cool opportunity to be able to attend there. But I'm excited about that. Because this first training I've truly, besides the AJA conferences, this first training in a long time that I've attended instead of, been part of. So I'm excited. It's first of 3 weeks, and I'll be happy to come back and tell you about it. So
excellent.
Yeah.
No, I saw the NIC stuff too. And, FEMA's got a bunch of
absolutely.
free training. So if you're sitting out there and you're a correctional officer and you want to put something on your resume, there's ways to do it, which kind of leads to my second question. One of the things that's getting dropped off, my opinion, you tell me if you've seen something different, is training. That's where we're saving money in those budgets. And it's horrible that we're doing that. But I would like to see our staff, our supervisors, get more comfortable with micro training, get more comfortable with the training that a shift supervisor gives. You don't have to sit somebody in a room for 8 hours to give them training. You walk by them and you say, where's that key go? You walk by them and say, where's your fire extinguisher at? You walk by them and say, where's that inmate live? Those are all things that cause them to think about their surroundings, their job, and it's things that they'll remember. And you can do that every night, 1 minute, 5 minutes. What do you think about that?
I hate the fact that training budgets are cut, and that's the easiest money to cut, I guess. That's something, thankfully, my organization does not allow. I mean, we fight for a training budget. And honestly, when our new staff are being sworn in, and I say it in front of the rest of the command staff and right in front of the sheriff, I say, if your goal is to promote, if your goal is to stay here for a career in the jail, make it hard for me to, say no to you. So meet me halfway. If you want to be somewhere, tell me and tell your chain of command. Here's your goals, and let's set them. And I also tell them, and we have a full service law enforcement agency. So if their goal is to go to the law enforcement side, give me 2-3 years. I'll train you. And our guys will teach you how to talk to people. And you go out there and be one of the best street cops that they can have. Because, we know how to talk to people. There's no doubt there. We know how to lower conflict just by talking ourselves out of trouble. That's what I did. I got myself out of trouble with that. But the concept of micro trainings is fantastic. I take every morning, I get a Google alert that I get, and I search key topics, suicide, escape, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And guess what? It's slapped full every single day. Lawsuits, medical malpractice, all these different things. And I always send it out to a group of people that I've collected emails from when they attended our trainings, or I trained with them and become part of they agreed to it. And I send it to them. And I know, Anthony Ganji, I know he takes my list and he sometimes makes posts out of it in the morning. So, but that's also, I send it to our supervisors and I said, this is the roll call training. Here's an example of, let's use somebody else's bad day to make sure that doesn't happen here and turning into a training. And oftentimes the sergeants are not doing it themselves, and they're, maybe the corporals are doing it, but oftentimes if they assign it to a line staff who's not an FTO, or who's not interested, but make them a little uncomfortable. And here, you're going to present this topic during roll call. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's policy reviews, sometimes it's news articles, and sometimes it's just hot topics. We just had our training unit all of a sudden show up. I got an email. They're going to be in roll calls. They're going to renew and talk about. We got a new style restraint chair. So they wanted to demonstrate it, and turned in. We did a roll call. Again, and I think you hit it on the head. I think some of those spontaneous drills in the middle of the shift, make you uncomfortable. But when it's all over, you're better for it. There's no doubt there. Because I hate seeing just random. I have a trash can fire next to and we're going to have a simple evacuation. Let's make it a little complicated. Let's make it fun. Challenge it. And you don't even have to move the inmates. You can pretend you're doing. You can do it like a tabletop if you want to. But talk me through it. Tell me what you would do. And but it is sad to think about that the first thing you're going to cut is training, because I think sometimes I'm a little too blessed where we work, but even where I came from, it was never a question. I mean, our in-service is high quality training, and it's definitely something that shouldn't be cut, but focused on. Absolutely, there's definitely ways. And on top of that, I think to this minute, one of the most important things anybody can do is pursue just a higher education. I don't care if it's a 2-year degree. I tell people, like, what's the benefit? Because our policy is you get some points for promotional process, but it doesn't mean anything necessarily. If you're tied, you're tied. But if somebody has a bachelor's degree and somebody doesn't, and they're tied otherwise, maybe that's a tiebreaker. That's what I tell them. because my sheriff talks about it all the time. He calls it stick-to-itiveness. It's proof, especially if you're an adult learner and you're pursuing your degree while you're working. And if you can get it done, that means your time management skills are solid, your writing skills are solid, and it's a good clue that, maybe not with AI now, because it's, on top of all the things I do, I also teach at a few colleges online, and I teach ethics. That's an enthralling topic, but it's important, right? But it's amazing how some of these, I call them children, coming out of high school that they just can't write, and they,
I know.
it's bad, and they're depending on that AI sometimes, and they're not covering their tracks. It's terrible. Definitely, AI is something that we definitely have to harness and take advantage of. It's going to really speed our jobs up and help us a lot, but don't depend on it. You got to be able to reason through things. So, yeah, I'm pretty passionate about training. And matter of fact, we went to our law enforcement academy graduation last night, and I reminded the captain of the academy. It's like, I wouldn't mind getting back in there, because I was definitely busy last year, so I wouldn't mind getting back in just to start teaching the recruits again. So,
teaching ethics,
mostly communication. Believe it or not. So, I guess I should maybe use my degree for that. Yeah.
Ethics to me kind of goes right along with the theme of your book, because ethics is about all that little stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Ethics is rarely someone who just jumps over the line. It's always a slow trickle.
Creep. Yep, it's a creep. Yep, you're absolutely right. It's funny. Is I got that philosophy degree because of a good deal. I'm as a part of my, I guess, weird hobbies is I like religion. I like studying religion and different religions, and philosophy is something that I really picked up on. I really kind of enjoy the Stoics and that concept of you can only control yourself. You can only control your response to outward influences, and it's true. Once I realized that, I was like, man, I really relaxed a little bit. I can't control what's going on. I can control my reaction to it. But it's the same concept. If you can control those things and those minor things, you can enforce that bunk being made, the inmate wearing his ID where it's supposed to be worn, and make sure the place is clean, and make sure if something breaks that it's addressed. Don't walk past the mess. It's not my job mentality doesn't fit where I work.
Right.
It's important, and those small things are. It's mind blowing to me, and I was kind of alluding to it earlier. It's mind blowing to me what's happened though with my book is. I'm shocked by where they're being sold. So at this point today, 62% of my books have been sold in the United Kingdom, and I saw that. I cannot believe it, and I've made 2 really good contacts over there via LinkedIn, and that's another thing I'd recommend to correctional officers. Just get on LinkedIn. It's a live resume, and make connections, and that's a great way to network and get free training too. There's great opportunities there too, but I've made 2 pretty solid connections, and I'm excited to say that one of them was a former minister of prisons. He's actually done a review of my book. It's going to be published in September. I'm excited about, and I am really impressed with them and their desire to, because there's some real issues in their system. They have real overcrowding issues and some really troubling legislative issues, and the system's trouble. And he told me what he said was, this is the book that I wish I would have written myself. And what a compliment. That's pretty cool.
Sure.
So it's been, every time I see a couple sell, I'm like, how many were in England? I'm telling you, 60%. I'm like, this is amazing. But so when if I get invited over there, maybe you can come with me and help me translate so I can understand the language. But,
absolutely. Let's do it. 17% of my listenership is from UK.
Awesome.
And
that is awesome.
One of the things this podcast taught me was that everywhere in the world, someone is sitting in a broken chair watching an inmate, because there's been 111 countries and territories. Awesome. I think Australia is 9% of the listenership. So, that's awesome. And I had no thoughts about UK or Australia when I was working as a correctional officer. Didn't think they dealt with it, but they sure do.
That's awesome.
So tell me what where are you headed? I know you've got stuff in the works.
Well, I mean, the good news is,
Shaun?
The good news is I love what I'm doing. So,
yep.
I just hit my 29th year, and long term, I would love the opportunity to do exactly what you were talking about, is being able to help put my arm around somebody and offer insight, offer advice. If that's, and in what form that is, while I'm working full time for a very, very supportive sheriff, got to be, be real smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to ever take advantage of that, because my primary job is obviously most important. But I love this profession. I love everybody who does the job, and I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything I could offer behind. So, I put that website up, keeperskeysleadership.com, and that is where I could set my links to buy the book. And if you buy straight from my publisher, it's a little cheaper than Amazon and Walmart and stuff like that. So, but eventually I want to turn that into consulting of some sort, most likely, maybe a leadership development type training. The book, I think, is going to gain some traction too. I want to see if I can connect with some colleges. Maybe it can, spin into something that way. My problem is I'm always, when I go to conferences, I'm not the guy going out with the vendors to dinner. I want to make sure there's, Caesar's wife has to be beyond reproach, right? So I definitely have a hard time marketing myself, let's put it that way, and I'm not going to cross the line to do it. But if something I can help anybody with, and that's the beauty of my current situation, is my boss is very open to us helping, and that's awesome, and that's all I want to do. Eventually, to just make sure I'm in a position where I can, help the next generation, or even the current generation, get to where they want to be. There's challenges every 4 years, or every 2 years, better yet. Sheriffs change, leadership changes, and there are still jails and across the country that when the sheriff changes, they bring a friend in to run the jail because it's a spot. Well, that friend doesn't necessarily know anything about running jails, and that's a good way to get people hurt and get sued. And that's, there's a great opportunity there too. We have to take care of ourselves, and we have to make sure that we're helping each other, because nobody knows everything. But together we can probably figure out a lot of things.
Do you think we'll ever get national standards for the county level, or is the fact that we've got 50 states and 50 counties in every state, is that just too much to overcome? Policing has a lot of standards that you go from one place to the other. It's fairly generally close, but I know you've seen it traveling. I talked to a guy 2 years ago who gave a day and a half of training to his last employee, and then he went to work. And then you go over here to California, and they're full-time peace officers, and they go through a full academy. Are we ever going to be able to do anything with that, do you think?
That was something we were working on last year, and we're still working on this year. We have meetings coming up. One of my good friends on the AJ board is Jeff Begg. He's a captain in Ohio, Stark County, and he's in charge of the national guidelines subcommittee or committee that we're trying to figure out. Yeah. And it's hard. There's, think about, I think there's 23 states in the country that don't have jail standards, minimum jail standards. And of the ones that do have them, Florida, Texas, California, they're mandatory. Not all of them are. Some of them are just samples and examples and, guidelines. Ours are jail standards. You have to. And they're the basic standards. So they're designed for the smallest and poorest of counties to be able to pass, right? So, but I see some really big counties that struggle with it sometimes year to year. Is it possible? I don't know. AJ has talked to the National Institute of Corrections, and they've talked about helping us figure something out, because if it's going to be national, then maybe that at least funding source could be beneficial.
That makes sense.
But I mentioned earlier, talking about the NIJO and Tate McCotter and his team, their concept is probably the best. It's definitely not, it's not minimum. It's legal, right? So we want to make sure we're doing what's right. And it's not always easy, and it's not always cheap to do what's right. A lot of jurisdictions struggle with those kind of funds and being able to comply with these things. And too often, the jail's an afterthought. And that afterthought's going to cost lives. It costs a lot of money if you're not really paying attention. So I would love it. I would love to find a way to establish those minimums. But we had the conversation just a couple of days ago. It's really not. It's hard. There's great models. There are great examples. But you need probably leadership in every single state and every jurisdiction to do so. All the way down to academies, like you said. Our corrections academy is just over 3 months long, and it's perfect. I think it's perfect. But anything is better than nothing. A day and a half, maybe not. Maybe it should be a little bit longer than that. But AJ is working on that too. We're trying to figure out just minimum like example. Obviously, the high liability stuff you'd have to do to meet your state requirements.
Yeah.
But if we just talk about interpersonal skills and general like high level law and we'd love to come up with something because even on an online platform at this point you can get a full doctorate degree without setting foot in a classroom. So I think we could talk some of the general subjects for academy stuff online. There's nothing wrong with that, but you definitely have to have that component, hands-on component, because it's a little different when you're going in the door slamming behind you for the first time and you don't know who your FTO is, don't know where the bathrooms are, so it's a little intimidating, but it's definitely something we're working on.
Cool. Yeah, there's a little dream out there. I would love to see everybody getting, a little bit of the good, So let me ask you a question off the cuff. If a correctional officer asked you today and they wanted to make their facility, and this kind of goes towards your book, wanted to make their facility 1% better, what's the first thing you think they should do?
So, like line level officer?
Yeah, line level officer. What can they do to make their facility better today? Set the example, set the tone.
I mean, set the tone simply. This may sound silly, but set the tone by walking in the door with a sharp pressed uniform and high polished shoes and be locked in, be absolutely locked in. And you got to set the tone for yourself first. And when you emulate that and you show up as the example, then maybe that example starts to spread. So,
yeah.
Now, I mean,
culture doesn't always start at the top.
No, and I'll tell you, historically, when we took over in 2010, we put together a team from all across the state of Florida, from the Department of Corrections, from different county jails we hired a bunch of people from the jail that we were taking over from CCA at the time. And it was hard because it was a group of people that never worked together, that were coming from different cultures, different styles. And I would tell you, it probably took a good 10 years before we could actually I could say, at least we have a Hernando way now, right?
Right.
6 years later, it's even better. We are probably the best we've ever been, locked in, and that from me down to the newest guy, they know the standards are. We're going to keep this place clean. It's going to be quiet. We're going to maintain. We're going to get the inmates what they need and what they have to have, and we're going to be human about it, And it took a long time. I mean, we had some real bumps in the road at first, but you're right. Culture. It's like turning a battleship with a spoon. It takes a long time, right?
Yeah.
So but that's what you need. If a line level officer says, "How can I make this place better?" That's the guy you want to look at as a leader. I mean, if your leadership say, "How can I make this place better?" Well, let's find out. You tell me. What do you think? Right?
That's right.
And then just give them the tools. And if that means sitting down and look at this training, offer this certifications, or simply read these books. I mean, I'm sure you do too. I'm sure you have a library of all the books you've read and some you've written and that you would recommend to people I mean, I learned a lot from just simply, what they say,
sure. Leaders
or readers, take advantage of it. And then, if those people are asking those kind of questions, those are the ones you want to engage with and keep them engaged because if they can't find that level of improvement, they're going to find probably a different place of employment is what they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I can't walk away from that plug because if you go to www.theprisonofficer.com, up at the top, there's a link that says Correctional Leadership Books. You can go there and support the podcast by buying your Amazon books through there. But Shaun, thank you. And congratulations on the new book. Tell everybody if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way and how do they get your book?
Yeah, so I mean, the easiest way is the website's keepwiththekeysleadership.com. There's a couple links on there just for the book, if that's the case. And probably the easiest way still to get a hold of me email-wise would be ShaunK@aja.org, ShaunK@aja.org. It's just a lot easier to spell than my full name. But actually, probably the easiest way is LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I have way too many people on that. I mean, I have like 8,500 connections on LinkedIn. I know like 10 of them. I'm just kidding. A little more than 10, but that's probably my favorite avenue. Honestly, that place it's a good place to connect, and I highly encourage anybody who's not on LinkedIn. Like I said, it's a live resume. So as you go to training and as you promote and as you do different things, just update your LinkedIn account, and people are looking, people are watching, and there's great ways to connect there. So, yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. I'm always excited about all the stuff you're involved in and the stuff you do for our profession. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again. Look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Thanks.
If you enjoy these podcasts, the best way to support the Prisoner Officer Podcast is to share these episodes with your friends or family on social media. Let me invite you to visit www.theprisonofficer.com. If you haven't already, check out the Prison Officer Podcast on Facebook and click that little follow button. Or leave us a message, or better yet, leave us a review. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Google, or Spotify, please click the subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Mike Cantrell. Watch your back, and please take care of each other out there behind those walls.